picture those times when you're feeling really annoyed with or hurt by your husband. You're in your head thinking to yourself, you don't care. You don't understand me. This will never get better. You want to feel understood and appreciated, but instead you're stuck feeling frustrated, alone, totally misunderstood. He just doesn't get it. Today, I'm going to share a powerful shift that you can make when you find yourself caught in a spiral like this. There is a 6-word phrase that you can use to start turning things around to get the connection and understanding that you're wanting. I am Lindsay. This is Loving with Intention. We are diving in, and as always, this doesn't only apply to husbands. This applies to any kind of partner. I just happen to work with a lot more women than men, so sometimes I say husband. So before we get to the shift and what you can do when you're having these thoughts, I really invite you to reflect and sink into one of these moments. Whichever scenario that I lay out here that feels relatable, let yourself tune into that moment. So maybe you just had an argument and your partner was being a total jerk. Maybe you just walked into the house after a super busy day and it's a disaster. You express your frustration to your partner and they just get defensive, or they shut down. Or maybe you've been trying to get your partner to spend time with you and the family and they just keep shutting it down or having excuses for why they don't want to. The conversation goes nowhere. Maybe you bring up a hurt feeling and they crack a joke and then you just both sweep it under the rug, but you really don't feel good. And maybe your partner, another scenario could be they bring up yet another thing you didn't do today, another thing that you just didn't get quote unquote right. Drop yourself into any one of those scenarios or a recent argument, disagreement, misunderstanding, challenging moment. When you walk away from those moments frustrated, what are you saying in your head? Here are some of the common things that we say to ourselves. You don't care. You don't really love me. I'm in this alone. I'll never do enough for you. I'll never be enough for you. I won't be able to win with you. You're going to leave me. You think I'm a failure. You don't understand me. I can't get anything right. I'll never be enough for anyone. You don't appreciate me. You think I'm a terrible person. And even, have you ever been so upset that you thought, I don't need you. I don't need this relationship. Life would be so much easier. Life would be so much better on my own. Take a deep breath. Those can be hard to think about, and we want to meet them with so much love. I have never met anyone who doesn't check off one of those boxes as a common thought that comes up when they're feeling frustrated with their partner or their relationship. And doesn't mean that we walk around thinking these things all of the time. These are thoughts that tend to come up when we get triggered, which is when our nervous system gets even a little bit into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. These thoughts come up in a split second before we even recognize that we're having them most of the time. And when we think them, it only makes sense that we get more and more upset. When my partner and I used to get in big arguments, I would leave them so upset. One of the thoughts that I would have is, you don't care. You don't care about me. There's no way you love me. So I'd sit there crying with those thoughts just running on repeat, just getting more and more upset. And back then, the thoughts wouldn't just go away when I became more regulated, because we had so much tension in our relationship, so much arguing, so little trust, so little real connection. These thoughts would often creep in those moments where we weren't triggered. And then after breaking up, getting back together, and me really diving into relationship growth work, then him eventually joining me, things got so much better, and these thoughts would still show up after an argument. Sometimes they would go away once things were settled and we repaired. Other times they still lingered. So here I am going about my day, still frustrated, even though we repaired or didn't. And I've got this narrative running that he doesn't care. He doesn't care about me. So you can imagine that changes my energy so much. I feel down, I feel discouraged, I feel worried, sad, sometimes even hopeless. You can plunk in any of those thoughts that we talked about and the ripple effect is the same. If I'm thinking, you don't appreciate me, I'm not going to feel good. If I'm thinking, I can't get anything right, I'm not going to feel good. It's going to affect how you show up. It's going to affect your ability to see your partner for their best intentions, to see the good, to feel the good, to give them appreciation. Really, it's going to affect your ability to love with intention. Ding, ding, ding. So if you're really in it, you'll feel stuck in it, looping it, trapped in it, that hopeless feeling. So what's the shift that can actually bring connection and understanding? It's 6 little words. Those thoughts, when you recognize that you're having them, Start them with, the story I'm telling myself is. The story I'm telling myself is that he doesn't appreciate me. The story I'm telling myself is that I can't get anything right. The story I'm telling myself is that he doesn't care about me. This seemingly simple shift, it's a freaking game changer. This is not how your brain naturally thinks these thoughts. Your brain literally thinks them as facts in a split second, 100% factual truths flooding your brain. When we slow it down and name them as stories, because that's what they are, we change the narrative. They are beliefs. They probably come from a really long time ago, too. And I know you might be thinking, but Lindsay, these thoughts aren't just stories. They feel so real. And sometimes I have evidence that they're true. I hear you. And yes, sometimes our partner really did do something hurtful. Sometimes they really did forget something important or say something really mean. Sometimes they did do the thing that they know upsets you for the 20th time. But here's the difference. There's what actually happened, the facts, and then there's the meaning that we give it, the story. So, for example, a fact might be, my partner didn't text me back for 7 hours. But the story we tell ourselves is, they don't care about me. Or the fact might be, they forgot to do the dishes again. But the story we tell ourselves is, I'm always going to be the one to do everything alone. Separating the facts from the stories doesn't minimize our feelings or excuse that behavior that we need to address because it's important. Instead, it gives us our power back. It helps us respond from a clearer place rather than react from our triggers and reacting from believing those stories as facts. When we name them as stories, even that shift in our own mind, our brain, now hearing them as stories rather than facts, it changes things. It changes our energy. It changes the possibilities of what might happen. Take my scenario. My partner and I have a fight. I leave thinking, you don't care about me. My brain is like, this is a fact. And it sucks to know that that's a fact about my partner and the relationship that I'm in. Instead, if I say to myself, the story I'm telling myself is that he doesn't even care about me. This leaves a whole lot of room for us to explore things. By us, I mean me and my brain. So just imagine you are wearing tinted glasses without even realizing that you have them on. You're wearing these red tinted glasses. Everywhere you look, everything is just red. You'd swear the sky was red, the trees are red, everything is red. And you'd be so convinced because that's what you're seeing with your own eyes. But here's the thing, of course, the world isn't red. You're just seeing it through a red lens. And when we believe our thoughts as facts, we're doing the very same thing. When you think he doesn't appreciate me or I can't do anything right, it's like putting on those tinted glasses. Suddenly, every interaction gets filtered through that lens. Your partner could bring you a coffee in the morning, but wearing those he doesn't appreciate me glasses, you might only think, well, he only did that because he wanted something. Or they could give you a compliment, but through those glasses, you might think, he's just trying to make me forget what he said earlier. So the real transformation happens when we realize that we're wearing these glasses, AKA telling ourselves stories, because we can take them off. We can look at situations with clear vision and start asking ourselves, is this really true? Or am I looking through a particular lens right now? Asking questions is a great place to start. Is this true? Can I absolutely know with 100% certainty that this is true? Is there any evidence otherwise? And if you can't think of those questions in the moment, the good news is that your brain changes just based on the language you use. When your brain knows it's a story, there can be some relief to your nervous system. Oftentimes there's so much pressure, anxiety, or big feelings that come with thinking something negative is absolutely true. When your brain knows it's a story, even if you don't question if the story is true, your brain already receives it differently and knows there are other possibilities. Of course, you might still feel upset or frustrated, and those feelings won't have as much power over your actions or decisions when you know it's a story. It's actually really, really empowering. When I know I'm running a really unhelpful story on repeat, I can choose to run a different story. But when I believe my stories are true, I feel like a victim to whatever happened. When I own my story, I feel like I'm part of this, which means I can change things. These moments are also huge growth opportunities. These stories come from somewhere, these old beliefs that we have. When we get curious about the roots, we can actually heal parts of us that need healing from a long time ago, which is the best and so sweet. We get to take power out of these stories. There have been so many times in the past where I've gone to my own therapist and felt super stuck in my stories without recognizing it, and it feels like a literal weight off when she helps me reframe these things. I would go from thinking nothing will change things are just getting worse, everything is awful, to things are going to be okay. There is hope. So I love these reframes, and I love doing this with clients too. Just recently, I was working with somebody who was caught in the aftermath of an argument, those painful, painful moments. They were still hurting and upset, even though time had gone by. They shared how they'd been withdrawn since the argument. Their connection with their partner was feeling strained and distant. Using one of my favorite tools, we started to explore what was really happening under the surface of all that hurt. As we dug deeper, they saw that they were treating these thoughts as absolute truth. These stories had been running the show, affecting every interaction with their partner since that argument. The moment they recognized these facts as stories, I literally watched their whole energy shift. Their shoulders relaxed. They could breathe easier because suddenly there was hope. This is the power of changing our self-talk. Doesn't mean it fixes everything in the moment. It's just the shift that we need. And when we make this shift, it really does open up a whole new way of approaching our relationship. Doesn't mean we ignore the hurt, doesn't mean we ignore the challenges, but it does mean we can address them without falling into criticism, shutdown, blame, any relationship poisons. We can show up differently, communicate differently, and actually create the change that we're wanting. It is not always easy in the moment. Next time you're feeling frustrated, feel the feels. Take some deep breaths. Do something for your nervous system like bilateral tapping, repeating a positive mantra. It's hard to label these thoughts as stories when you're really dysregulated. When you have the capacity, name the thoughts, but add those 6 words first. The story I'm telling myself is. This is a total choice point. You can keep the tinted glasses on, or you can take them off. The shift alone is huge. And of course, you can then reach out to a coach, therapist, or other support to start to explore the beliefs and stories deeper and dig into doing the healing work. Sometimes we are drowning in stories that we believe are facts and we don't even know it. It feels so good to name them and get your head above water. The story I'm telling myself speaks straight to your heart and brain, and it opens the door to reconnection and possibility. You have got this. Your intentional action is to get curious. What's a recent thought that you've had that is actually a story? Awareness brings empowerment. And I just talked about getting regulated when you're feeling triggered or frustrated because it helps you name the stories. In the video on the screen, I share what I do after every argument to help me get regulated and back to a place of connection. So this can be so helpful in naming the stories. I am sending so much love into your day. Remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. So let's have a super intentional week.